I think in retrospect of this game, Coach, there was a little bit of a validation of complementary football. You've said that a lot here lately, using that term.
Well, I mean, I don't think we have to validate complementary football. We've been playing complementary football around here for a long time. I just think that's the way you should play football. We talked all week about hunting with a purpose. Drew Brandon gave our team an incredible message on Friday, and he gave them a history lesson. But it was great for the players to hear it and buy in. They gained confidence as the week went on to the plan, and they stuck to the plan, and they executed well. We still turned the ball over too much, but some of that was on the weather conditions. But I was just so proud of how selfless the players were. And guys, we were a beat-up football team coming into this game. We had two O-linemen that really couldn't go, didn't practice all week. Ladd couldn't go 2 days this week. Beefy went down during the game. Nolan was out. We had a lot of players dinged up, and a lot of guys stepped up to play for them.
Kirby, how aggressive was that game plan? I saw you on Game Day today talking about cornerbacks being on islands, potential hidden heroes. I mean, just how hung out were some of those guys in coverage?
Well, they'll never be not hung out when you play them. I mean, there's not another way to do it. So, if you play them, you're going to be hung out because you can't put two people 45 yards from the ball. You can only put one. But our kids understood the plan. I mean, they stuck to the plan, and the plan was really hard practice, a lot of reps, a lot of organization, a lot of details in terms of how fast we can we duplicate their speed, maybe even faster. Can we get lined up? Can we execute? Can we stop the run? Those are all questions that we had coming in, and we don't get to play against that kind of offense, so it's tough to prepare for.
Kirby, you were asked before, earlier in the week, about how Keeley had played. Comes out, has that interception. Just what did you think of his performance?
Yeah, he's resilient. He's a competitor. He texted me on, I guess it was Sunday morning as we were getting ready for Tennessee, and he's like, "Can I come see you?" And I'm like, "What's going on?" And he's like, "I want number 11." And I'm like, "Well, that's not the game plan. That's not what we're doing. We're going to do it the way we think's best." And I appreciate your energy, your enthusiasm, but we're going to put a plan together, and we're going to ask you to execute it, and he bought into that. He practiced really hard this week. It was important to him to play well.
Kirby, players were saying that Nolan Smith kind of spoke to your team a little bit before the game. Kind of what effect did that have?
I didn't hear him. I heard his voice talking in there, but I don't know exactly the message and what he said. But there was a lot of guys that spoke up and said, "Hey, this guy would be out there giving it all for us. The thing we could do is come out and compete and play for him." Because Nolan's unique. Nolan plays for the University of Georgia, and every kid we got plays for the University of Georgia. But Nolan Smith cares dearly about this university. He would give anything. He'd go out there and play with that arm, even if it meant hurting him in the NFL draft. He doesn't care. He wants to win. He's a competitor, and those guys are hard to find and rare. And some of his messaging and his presence, I told him he could impact this game, just getting guys to go line up faster.
Kirby, what is the blueprint for replacing 15 draft choices? We're witnessing it in real time.
Recruit hard, play with physical toughness. I really don't think it's, I think everybody, in the SEC recruits well. Everybody's got good football players around them. Yeah, you got to go sign good football players. We've done that. But from what I hear from other people that watch us, it's physical toughness. It's Tuesday and Wednesday practice. And I think physical toughness won out today for us because they're a really physical team. People don't understand that. They're extremely physical. They run the ball between the tackles. And until you take that away, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what you do outside. You better be able to strike people and get off blocks.
Jalen Carter, coach, getting him back. Obviously he made plays, but does his presence also ignite something in interior defensive line?
I think it gave us some juice in it. The one thing it gave us was depth. We had two guys in that room come up with the flu this morning, and I'm like, Jalen's going to have to play more snaps, and he took it head on, and I don't know how he ended up playing, but he's certainly an energy boost in terms of the confidence the other players have in him.
Kirby, a lot of attention on Hooker this week. What about your quarterback's play?
I thought our quarterback played really good. He played within the system. He understands our system. He puts us in the right place so much. The drive before the half, that was just clockwork for him to eat their time and guarantee that they didn't get a double possession because they were getting the first possession of the second half. And it was critical. That middle eight that he did a phenomenal job. If anything, I slowed him down. because I wanted to make sure they didn't get a possession. But he converted that 3rd and 5, and it only left us with 1 play instead of 2. But he knows what he's doing. He understands it. I think he can tell you there's still mistakes, but when you put that much pressure on a kid, that much decision-making, you're going to have some of that gray area sometimes.
But going into the half, you were like, I'm not letting them get the ball back. As soon as you got like the 30 or 40, when was it?
Yeah, I probably didn't do a good job there. Like it's one of those deals that we were talking on the headphones the whole time. We had 3 timeouts, so we were never worried about it. It's a cat and mouse game because he's over there. He called timeout. And then he got a 2nd down and a little bit 4 or 5, and I'm looking at him and he's like, man, he knows he's helping us. And I'm looking across like, are you gonna call timeout? Because if you're not, I might. And he wanted the extra possession, and he was, he ended up not doing it. And then when the clock was running, Stetson was ready to snap it and convert the 3rd down. And if we didn't get the 3rd down, I didn't want them getting the ball back because they've been able to be explosive and score quickly.
Kirby, you mentioned resiliency. I guess some similar question about Ladd McConkey. He's had some drops. I think he was the lead receiver today, had that long touchdown. Just what have you seen from him, and what did you see from him?
The guy just runs till his tongue hangs out. I mean, we have to temper him in practice. We got to slow him down. He's going to run himself to death. And then we check his GPS, we check his volume. Like I said, he wasn't able to go really Wednesday or Thursday, and came out, played with great toughness. He blocks well. I mean, the guy's a competitor, and his family are the biggest Tennessee people there are. He grew up Tennessee fan all his life, and that was a big game to him.
Coach, getting back to the noise for a second, off the top of your head, do you ever recall legal procedure / false start, calls in one game?
Notre Dame,
Get to the
maybe.
noise?
I don't know. Y'all tell me. Notre Dame seemed like 20 of them, but it was electric, and you get that when you have a good defense in front of you and a really good crowd.
Kirby, you've seen Stetson win big games before, but what is it about those moments that enables him to really come through?
Competitive excellence, competitive toughness. He's a winner. I mean, let's be honest. The guy wins. The guy knows how to play the game. He understands what people are doing. He came off the field one time and we were frustrated, and he said what coverage it was, and a lot of people were saying it wasn't. You go back and look. He was right. He sees the coverage. He understands it. He's stubborn as hell sometimes, but he's a competitor, man.
It sounds like on their offense. Do you feel like the front and the back end of your defense kind of took it personally?
I don't know. All the stuff that was written and said, we never utilized it, said anything. I mean, they get questioned all the time because all the other guys left. But because the other guys left, why does that matter? Like, they got here on their own merit. So, like, the question, I think the biggest confidence question for them was Tennessee, because they are explosive. They are really hard to stop on offense. So there was some doubt and question marks there, but they bought into this plan. I mean, every coach, 5 coaches of defense go over the exact plan every day. This is what we're doing. This is how we're doing it. We're going to keep it simple. We're going to line up fast. We're going to strike blockers. We're going to play people. We're going to keep the ball in front of us. We're not going to let them be explosive. We're going to affect the quarterback. We're going to buy into it. And if everybody does it, we were talking about the plan every time they came off the field, and they executed the plan.
Coach, how pleased were you with what you guys were able to do on the line of scrimmage tonight?
Very pleased. I think the line of scrimmage always dictates the outcome of games, because eventually you have to be able to run the ball some. And we were able to run it, and I don't know, I still feel like they ran it well late, but I feel like we controlled the run game.
Did you run the ball in the second half because of the weather, or because you wanted to chew clock, or?
The weather, it was sloppy. I mean, you saw it back to back. It's wet. The ball's everywhere. They fumble. They hardly ever fumble. We fumble. We don't fumble much. Back to back, and it becomes a who cannot mess it up. I mean, at that point, it was a different kind of game. So we went in the bag a little bit, and they were in a tough position because it's hard to throw in that environment.
Punters don't get much love about that 75-yard kick.
Man, I told him he worked like a boomerang from Australia. Sidewinding. I kept going, get out of bounds, and it's a hell of a kick by him, and that was a big momentum swing.
Now, adjustments, you talked about how Tennessee adjusts and how this is like option football with the pass game. What about the job your staff did? I know you guys don't always pat yourself on the back, but clearly, schematically, you guys were sound.
Sound, but I would say again, going into the game, what did we say we were not going to do? We're not giving them layups. If they go in for a layup, we're fouling them. We're not giving layups. We're not giving layups. And we stayed away from the layups. And, no disrespect to those other teams, they had a good plan probably too. But if you make it hard, complicated, you can't do it fast enough.
Coach, I know you're focused on the guys in your locker room, but recruiting-wise, how big of an impact today, having all those big-time recruits there with the crowd and having the #1 team in the building tonight?
Yeah, I think our crowd impressed the folks that were here. We're very fortunate to have a facility here that our administration helped build. It is unreal. For Haynes, they can go inside. If they want to stay outside and celebrate the rain with us, they can. A lot of them are going back over to our facility now to spend time with us, and ultimately this game will probably get us, you know, another good player that will probably be playing here against them in 2 years. You know, and that's the name of the game. You want to be a good coach, you got to sign good players.
How's Bill?
I don't know. It's a great question. Unfortunately, they told me they were taking me for X-ray, and then I never heard anything else, so I don't know there.
What impressed you most about the team? I mean, you guys have had a lot of big games in recent years, but maybe a lot of these guys haven't been in the prominent roles that they were in tonight.
Just the courage to stick with the plan. I mean, there's a lot of folks outside doubting them. They never doubted themselves. I mean, a lot of confidence in that room. These players were confident. I'm most proud of our staff, man. Our staff really worked hard this week to have a good plan, to execute the plan, and the players didn't let their ego get in the way. Game day's here, SEC Nation's here, everybody's here. It's the biggest matchup in Athens. I'm gonna stick to the plan. And the plan was to execute your job, play in and play out, be explosive on offense, push the pocket on the rushers, and they did that.
Why were you guys able to execute the plan that you talked about when some of the other teams that Tennessee's played this year have not?
I don't know. I don't know the other team's plan. You know, I don't know. For us, it was all about getting lined up quicker than they do, and you know, practice. We told our players they did double the reps this week in terms of the amount of minutes you practice in a period. If it's 12 minutes, you usually do 24 plays. Well, we had periods where we were getting 35 and 40 plays because how fast they were going, and they doubled up, and I think that helped play a part of it. I think the success we had early in the game, because when you play Tennessee, they go for the knockout blow in the first round. You got to survive it. And I don't like surviving anything. We want to attack it, but with them, it's about surviving that.
Kirby, how big was Arian's catch, and especially just with everything he's gone through to even be back out there?
Man, that guy stays out there. I kept having dreams I was going to have to put him in against their 11 to let him run with it, but he stayed after practice every day, ran a lot of comeback routes, a lot of slants, a lot of deep balls, and for him to get that is so much gratification for this kid who worked so hard. And he had bumps and bruises during the week and had to go in a black shirt and bounced all the way back, and really thought he was going to catch that ball late to put a dagger in there. But he's a great kid, and he's a really good player.
You talked about dreams a second ago. Did you sleep well last night knowing what y'all were getting into?
I slept better as the week went on because I felt really good in the plan we had. I thought we had to execute it, and I told my wife and kids leaving today, I said, we've done everything we can do. We've put together a great plan. Our kids have bought into it. Just go execute it. You know, I knew that our crowd would impact the game, and someone texted me and said, hey, you remember Alabama-Auburn last year at Auburn? They had crowd noise galore, and they had all those sacks. And it goes back to when you play on the road in the SEC, you can't account for that 0.2 seconds of get off that changes the rush. And it changed tonight. It helped our rush.
Years past, your players would be out dancing with the student section for 15 minutes after the game. For the most part, it seemed like everybody just kind of headed to the locker room. Is that something that they just instinctually, you beat the #1 team, and it didn't, celebration-wise, at least outwardly, didn't seem that way. Is that just a mindset that this is not the end?
I hope they're just not ready to get downtown. I hope that's not the problem. They buy into it. They understand that humility is a week away. They've got to go to Starkville next week, which is a tough game. And I'll be honest with you, our guys probably want to get in there to go in there and celebrate. Half of them don't even get their phones as soon as they walk in. So they're like, well, I can't say that. They're just like like my kids. They want to go get their phone and see what somebody said about them. So y'all say nice stuff about them tonight.
Let's take two more questions.
Well, is this going to break a record for us? 2 hours?
Two more questions.
Kirby, you've been here a long time. Was this the loudest ever?
I don't know. I always tell people, when you can't hear, it's deafening. Like, what's more deafening than deafening? They have that little decibel thing. I don't understand that thing at all. There's no way it's accurate. I mean, but I look at it as Kentucky was loud, Arkansas was loud, Notre Dame was loud, and it was loud, and loud is loud. So there's a point where you cannot hear, and I was proud of our fans, because I don't know if our stadium is exactly built vertically for just crazy crowd noise, but they were impactful tonight.
Quick question, Coach, about defensive scheme. Hi, Coach Hayden. Talking about Devon Bullard as far as coming off the edge. Tell me a little about his role and how it's growing on defense.
He is so tough. He is so physical. He is like a little stick of dynamite, man. When we recruited him, it was a COVID year, and there weren't that many people recruiting him. I said, man, this guy's tough. He loves contact. He hits people. And Schumann and defensive staff, I give Schumann a lot of credit. He came up with a couple plays that he thought would disrupt them, and we kept running the same thing. It was like, we can't run it again. He ran it again. I said, we can't run it again. He ran it again. I'm like, geez. Bullard kept coming off the edge and was really impactful as a rusher. And the guys in the back end held up. So I was really proud of those guys. And look, I want to make sure I'm super proud of our offense, because I personally think coming into that game, Tennessee's defense was really peaking and getting better. They had played really good football, guys. They attacked the ball. They do good in the red area. They got a good defensive unit, and our offense came out to play. Thanks.